This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome into the Practice Squad Live episode 3. And Stroz, right off the bat, I don't totally know where we're going today. When we were setting up this show, you told me you didn't want to give me too much information on a topic. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so, if COVID-19 no longer existed today, and when I say that, I want to create essentially a fantasy world scenario that isn't even possible, literally just disappeared from the face of the earth today, what's the first thing you do? I've been watching The Last Dance. I'm sure you have as well. I don't think me and Jordan would get along as teammates. We're going to get into that. Stroz, you wanted to play the schedule game for the Lions. Now, I don't think you want to spend the whole 15 minutes or so just breaking down every single game. So I'm just going to let you take it where you want to take it. It's a dangerous idea, not something I typically want to do with our show. But I'm going to trust you, Stroz, to lead us in the right direction.
So really and truly, I just kind of want to know, what you think the Lions are going to do next year, just looking at the schedule. This is what everybody does when the schedule comes out. Everybody sits down, they go through, and they give their wins and their losses. So I'm curious as to where you're at, because that's going to lead to my next question, because I don't see any way. This looks like a really difficult schedule. I don't see any way you have them winning more than 8 games next year.
Before we go too far, Stroz, are you able to pull up the Periscope stream? Because when I look, it is saying content unavailable.
So I've got it up right now. It took a minute, but I got it up.
It's working for you.
Yes.
All right, then we'll keep rolling. Let me pull up the schedule. I do have it on a tab. So I did this briefly before we got on, so I wasn't totally blind. But I'll give you a very quick rundown of the way I see it going. Chicago to open at home, win. Head to Lambeau, loss. To Arizona, I think that's a really underrated Arizona team. I think they could be a playoff contender this year. Loss. Home against the Saints, loss. That's 1-3 I have them at right now. They head to Jacksonville, who I don't respect even a little bit. They haven't even lost everybody yet who I expect them to lose, which is incredible given we're in May. So I'm giving them the win there. At Atlanta, I have a loss that has them at 2-4, so a really rough start to the season. I do think they beat the Colts at home, 3-4. They go to Minnesota, lose that one, 3-5. Home against Washington, I think, is a look. The Lions are a bad football team. I don't think their Washington Redskins bad. That's a win. At Carolina, I think that I think that team could be scary, but I don't think they're there yet. So I'm gonna go with a win there. This is probably my most controversial pick. Thanksgiving versus the Texans. The Texans are a better team than the Lions, but I don't think they're as much better as most people think. I'm actually gonna give the Lions a win against the Texans on Thanksgiving. At Chicago, I don't respect Chicago. This is probably one of my bigger toss-ups, but I'm going to go loss. Green Bay at home, loss. At Tennessee, loss. Tampa Bay, loss. And then to wrap up the season, Minnesota at home, win. So I have them winning against the Bears at home, Jacksonville on the road, Indianapolis at home, Washington at home, Panthers on the road, Texans at home, and then a huge losing streak. I guess it's only 5, but a 5-game losing streak before wrapping it up with a win against Minnesota at home. I have them at 7-9.
7-9. Okay. So initially when I did it, I had them at 7-9 myself. By the way, Dr. Ken says hello. So what's up, Dr. Ken?
Dr. Ken, you can see us.
Actually, he says hola. So I had them at 7-9 the first time I did this. And then I sat back down the other day and I went through it again. And I had them winning only 4 games, which leads me to this point. This is another season where they're going to miss the playoffs. This is another year where they underachieve and they don't do what good football teams do. Who deserves the blame for this? Who has been the guy who has been essentially the leader of this team 4 years now? Doesn't this point to Matt Stafford to not being able to get the job done?
The schedule game tells me Matt Stafford's a freaking problem. This is no. I don't even respect this. I don't know how to contribute to this. You're looking at a schedule in May and somehow coming up with Matthew Stafford's the problem.
I think it screams to the fact that your quarterback can't get the job done.
Whatever.
Whatever. Look. No, wait, hold on. Look. So Blake Bortles has won 2 playoff games. Rex Grossman has won 2 playoff games in his career.
I think what that tells
Rodney
you is quarterbacks
Peete
aren't everything.
has won a playoff.
How in the
Tim
world?
Tebow has won a playoff game. TJ freaking Yates has won a playoff game. Matt Stafford has won 0 playoff games. He can't even get his team to the playoffs.
How many playoff games did John Kitna win for the Lions? How about Joey Harrington?
0. Matt Stafford's a better quarterback than both those guys.
Your point is freaking stupid.
My point is, Matt, listen, look at Seattle. Seattle's a prime example.
Dr. Ken
Seattle with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has made the playoffs 7 out of his 8 years he's been in the league. All right? Russell Wilson had 5 different running backs. They had to go get Marshawn Lynch off of his couch last year to provide a running game. On top of that, his offensive line has been arguably one of the worst in the league for years. Last year, it was the 27th rated offensive line according to Pro Football Focus. Okay? He has faced 42% of his dropbacks have been under pressure. That's the most in the league, yet Russell Wilson still finds a way to get it done and to get his team to the playoffs.
You live in a cult, man. You're brainwashed. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do.
I just want to know if at any point this falls on your quarterback. Does this ever fall on your quarterback?
Yeah, when he's bad. To use Rex Grossman and Tim Tebow and Blake Bortles of examples as to why Stafford is a problem, it literally lacks any sense. It is the largest lack of critical thinking I've ever seen from you. It is incredible. All these bad quarterbacks have won playoff games. Why hasn't Matthew Stafford? The answer is right there for you, because they had good football teams around them.
Dr. Ken says Russell Wilson also has a good defense.
Yeah, and a running game.
Dr. Ken. No, wrong. Their defense, I think, was ranked 23rd last year. They had a garbage defense last year. Russell Wilson put that whole team on his back last year and got him to the playoffs. And the run game was made up of odds and ends, of spare parts. I mean, you went and got Marshawn Lynch out of retirement to perform for you.
I honestly, I
think at some point you have to look at how this team's put together. And look, I had my come to Jesus moment with you last year. I said Matt Stafford he's a good quarterback.
Look, if all you want to do is
I just don't think Matt Stafford can get the job done.
Why? There's no basis for that. You're right. Here. You know what? Let's find a common ground. Matt Stafford can't get the job done. I agree. Because he's got nothing to work with. You think the head coach is an idiot. You think the GM sucks. You think that the defense is terrible.
Look, let's stay with Russell Wilson.
I'm sorry,
what do you mean
he's
he has
not
nothing?
a Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't think he is. He's not one of the best.
What do you mean he has nothing to work with? What do you mean he has nothing to work with? Over the course of his career, he has had a ton to work with. He had a Hall of Fame wide receiver in Calvin Johnson. He's got Kenny Golladay, who we both agree is a very good running back or a very good wide receiver.
There's other players on Matthew Stafford's team who belong in the NFL. Thank God they're not the only 16 Lions.
Who has Russell Wilson had? Who's been Russell Wilson's best wide receiver he's ever had?
Wilson, the majority of his career.
Doug Baldwin. Just when Doug Baldwin was starting to take off, he had concussions and had to leave the game.
The vast majority of Russell Wilson's career, he's had an elite defense. I will give it to you. Last year, they weren't elite. They were still much, 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 much better than what the Lions had. And on top of that, Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is a top 3 quarterback. I do not think Stafford is that. Stafford is not Patrick Mahomes. Stafford is not Russell Wilson. There might be 2 or 3 quarterbacks who can get you to the playoffs on their own and beat a bad Philly team on their own. Stafford isn't a top 3 quarterback. I'm not arguing that with you. But you said it yourself. Rex Grossman won playoff games. Blake Bortles won playoff games. Tim Tebow's won playoff games. Let me ask you this question. Are those 3 players more capable of winning than Matthew Stafford?
I mean, they've done it. Matt Stafford hasn't done it yet.
Are they more capable of winning than Matthew Stafford? They themselves.
I would say, looking at it, Matt Stafford should be the better quarterback, should be able to win you the game. But Matt Stafford hasn't been able to win you a game.
Who is more capable of winning a playoff game?
Matt Stafford should be able to.
So he's not. Rex Grossman.
Well, he hasn't.
I'm not asking you if he has or hasn't. We both know that. I'm asking you a very simple question. Is Matthew Stafford more capable of winning a playoff game individually, take everything else out of the picture, than Blake Bortles, Rex Grossman, and Tim Tebow?
Should be, yes.
I'm done. I've got nothing, dude. I can't do this.
He should be.
But so he's not.
But he hasn't done it. He hasn't done it.
Those 3 quarterbacks. You're not willing to say it because you know it's stupid. Use your freaking brain. I did not expect you to go, schedule game, Matthew Stafford sucks. By the way, we got a question asking about my microphone. It's cheap. That's why they're really good for the price. That's why I use this old-time microphone. Dude, I don't know how to engage you on this. There's no no brain power there. Like, you came in here like a freaking zombie.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I got my reaction that I wanted. I wanted to watch your head explode this morning,
a zombie.
And that's what I got.
No,
and
you realize how stupid you are.
I'm not stupid. I think, look, man, at this point, he's been in the league 14 years, and you've won nothing with him. You've got guys out there who are basically backup quarterbacks.
All right, yeah, let's do
who
it.
have playoff wins, and Matt Stafford
Blake
doesn't.
Bortles is a free agent.
Matt Stafford's like one of a few quarterbacks who have 0 wins and 3 playoff losses. At some point, the guy just has to get the job done and hasn't.
Blake Bortles is a free agent. Do you want Blake Bortles?
No, I don't believe in Blake Bortles.
Playoff games.
Yes. You know what? It'd be funny if he was your backup, because your backup quarterback would have more wins than your starting quarterback.
No. Why would he be your backup? He's more capable of winning playoff games. I'm coming to your side, Stroz. Why wouldn't they not sign Blake Bortles, who can win a playoff game?
Because you have Matt Stafford and you have too much money wrapped up in Matt Stafford. That's why. You've got roughly 20%. You've got roughly 20% of your salary cap wrapped up with Matt Stafford, and you can't trade him right now because you're gonna have to eat the dead money salary cap. That's why you don't go sign Blake Bortles.
Wouldn't cost crap. You don't sign Blake Bortles because he's not a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. He's not more capable of winning a playoff game than Matthew Stafford, and you know it. And you know that there is no sense behind your argument, and how you got there from how you got there from doing the schedule game, I really don't know, man. What do you?
Because, like, if you had, let me put it like this, right? So if you had a better quarterback, go through, give me your top 5 quarterbacks. They don't have to be in order. Just give me your top 5.
Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson. What is the very? Let me. I'm Lamar Jackson.
Is Drew Brees in there?
Drew Brees.
Okay.
I need one more.
Tom Brady, maybe?
Not at this point in his career.
Not at this point. Okay. Aaron Rodgers.
I think he's declined fairly significantly.
Okay, cool.
But
let's go with Aaron Rodgers then. Let's go. Aaron Rodgers is prime then. Aaron Rodgers is perfect. If Aaron Rodgers was on this team, he was your quarterback.
You wanted me to go through the schedule given that?
Yep.
Okay, how about we
with
go
Aaron
with
Rodgers?
Bortles too? Is that fair?
No, because it'll be 0-16. I know what you'll do.
No. You can go through it. I won't give an answer with Blake Bortles. I want you to. Is that fair? I will go through it with Aaron Rodgers. You will go through it with Blake Bortles. Because I'm not the one arguing Matthew Stafford is better than Aaron Rodgers. You're the one arguing he is less capable of winning a playoff game than Blake Bortles.
I'm saying that Blake Bortles has 2 playoff wins and Matthew Stafford does not.
Wonderful, dude.
I'm not saying he's more capable.
Yes,
I'm not saying he's more capable. I'm saying that he's done it. Matt Stafford has failed to do it in 14 years.
Okay, so let's use somebody who has. If Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback going through the schedule, Chicago, win. At Green Bay, who's the quarterback for Green Bay? Aaron Rodgers still?
We'll flip-flop. We'll say Matt Stafford plays for Green Bay.
If we flip-flop, I'll give them the win. At Green Bay?
I'll give them the win too.
I'd give them the loss. I'd give them the win at home, which I didn't give them later.
I would give them the win at Green Bay.
They're a significantly better defensive team. Last year, Green Bay was a very strong defense. They're a significantly better running game. The gap between Stafford and Aaron Rodgers does not make up for how much better the surrounding cast is in Green Bay. I'm going to give them the loss.
While I agree with you, Matt, Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys. If he rolls into Lambeau, we'll just say they got traded, right? They did a straight up trade. He's going to be pissed. He's going to win that game.
Sure, but that doesn't have anything to do with what we're trying to do here. So I'm giving them that loss.
Okay, fine.
All right, fine. Arizona, I'll give them the win. New Orleans, the loss. At Jacksonville, the win.
Yep.
At Atlanta, it becomes more of a toss-up. Dude, the discussion here is you think Aaron Rodgers is capable of winning 14 games on his own, and that's just. I don't think he's capable of winning 14. Not at this stage of his career. Absolutely not. The thing is, I feel more comfortable with a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who has done it, instead of Matt Stafford, who has regularly failed. Okay, so if the point you were trying to
my question to you is,
you would rather
at
have
some point,
a Hall of Famer than Matthew Stafford.
My question to you is, at some point, doesn't it fall on your quarterback to be the difference maker in your team? And this is why, and listen, this goes back to our conversations on the draft. This is why I wanted them to go out and grab a guy like Tua, because I think Tua is going to be a generational player. I think he's going to be the next Drew Brees. Okay? Doesn't your organization have to move on from what obviously isn't working?
At some point, when your quarterback is no longer a good player, you have to move on from him. Agreed. Is that what you wanted me to say? When Matthew Stafford is bad, I want him to be a Lion. How much blame does Aaron Rodgers get for the Packers going 6-9-1 2 years ago?
I mean, I think if you look at his team was built poorly. The guy hasn't had a legitimate wide receiver in what?
No. At some point, you have to blame the quarterback. They couldn't even win 7 games that year. How many years has Stafford started 16 games and won less than 7? Once? Twice?
I don't know. I'd have to look.
It's not many. It's happened, but it hasn't happened in a long time. Dude, it's just it is a lack of critical thinking. It is a absolute.
I think there's a ton of critical thinking. I've given you stats. I've given you a ton of information here. By the way, we've got a ton of questions here. Let me get to some of these. Let me get to some of this. The interaction with
Stroz is basically like trying to start a cult over here. So I haven't done the best job paying attention to the comments. Go ahead.
All right, so according to Putty, Wilson can run. Stafford is a pocket passer with no line. You cannot compare the two. Then a bunch of laughing emojis.
So valuable.
Before the injury last year, this is Putty continue. Before the injury last year, Stafford was on pace for 30 touchdowns and 5,000 passing yards. Also, sorry for the confusion. I meant no Stroz. This is from Dr. Ken. I tried and have to wait for the wife to come home to... I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, we lost track of where that comment came from. It might be about the microphone. It might be yours that was old-timey. I don't know.
I'm not sure. According to Putty, Adam and Brendan, protect Matt Stafford and you win the division. 100% believe that. Why should we play this game with Eli? Why should we play this game with Eli Manning? This is from Dr. Ken. If this was a normal franchise, then yes, Stroz is right, but it's not a normal franchise.
By the way, also asking the question, was Rodgers hurt in the 6-9-1 season? I went back to look it up. I don't know if he was playing with an injury, but he played the whole season. He threw 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, had a good year, and they still went 6-9-1. In my opinion, it's pretty simple. You cannot blame the quarterback for everything. Should they eventually move on from Matthew Stafford? Absolutely. 100%.
I don't think you should blame the quarterback either. I mean, I have done a pretty good job of filleting this organization from top to bottom, whether it be general manager Bob Quinn, whether it be the head coach Matt Patricia, whether it be the moves that they make. I mean, you've seen how upset I was on draft day because I did not agree with their draft. And then we had a huge argument.
Matthew Stafford, you need to move on from Matthew Stafford because he's not working. He can't win a part.
My point is, after 14 years, he hasn't been able to do it, and you yourself don't have the confidence in the guy.
No,
and that was shown by flip-flopping the quarterbacks, by moving a declining Aaron Rodgers over to Detroit and then comparing the schedule. You started to give Detroit more wins. They would make the playoffs with a declining Aaron Rodgers.
And if I put in 15 other quarterbacks, Stroz would win as many games or less. Yes, if you use an elite quarterback, if you put Patrick Mahomes on this team, I probably think they make the playoff. They're
absolutely. But I would say Patrick Mahomes is at this point is pretty elite.
Yeah, I mean Aaron Rodgers is right there on that line of 5.
My point is, you have a Aaron Rodgers who is in the twilight of his career. Would you agree? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay. You have Matthew Stafford, who is basically stepping out of the prime of his career, not quite on the decline, but getting there. So you have a quarterback who is already going down the downward slope of his career compared to a guy who is just leaving the prime, and still you're going to give the guy who is on the downward slope. If you put him on this team, he's going to have more wins. My point is,
right now,
your quarterback doesn't do enough for you. And I told you last year, I had an about face about Matt Stafford. I thought he was playing some of his best football last year before he got hurt. Okay. And if he can come back and be 100% healthy this year, I think they have a good chance for him to make a lot of moves, and he could possibly be the comeback player of the year. 1, though, I don't trust his health. 2, I don't trust this team. And 3, I don't trust him. And that's the big issue I have with it. I don't trust Matt Stafford as the quarterback of the Detroit Lions.
All right, we need to move on. We're never going to find common ground on this belief.
You love Matt Stafford.
No, I don't. I think that he's a really good quarterback who you can win with in the NFL, and the reason the Lions haven't won has very little to do with him. And I think looking at it any other way is just it's a lazy cop-out. It is very easy to blame the quarterback, to blame the goalie, to blame the whatever. If you actually look at what's been on the field, the Lions have not had a good team around him the vast majority of his career. And when they do, they've had some levels of success. Moving on, though. And again, coming up a little bit later on in the show, if you've been watching The Last Dance, recently we've been hearing a lot about Michael Jordan as a teammate. And I don't think Jordan and I would get along very well. Stroz doesn't think him and I would get along very well. Probably not wrong. But right now, I want to set up a fantasy world. I want to set up a fantasy world, like completely fantasy, because even when we feel like we've escaped COVID-19 and are getting back to a more normal life, it won't happen overnight. You know, it's going to happen over time. But I'm creating a fantasy world where tomorrow, COVID-19 literally disappears. There is no threat at all. What's the first thing you're doing? I have a few things that come to mind, Stroz. Where are you at?
So if COVID-19 no longer exists and I could do whatever I want. So I'm waking up early in the morning and I'm going to go hit the gym because I miss the gym. I'm tired of using bands in a basement and I'm tired of doing push-ups. So I'm going to go throw some weights around and I'm going to go move some things. I'm going to lift some things up and put them down. After that, I am going to make plans to go out and see a movie. I am then going to go to dinner.
It was funny.
Locally.
It doesn't feel like something that would come up because like you could stay at home and watch movies right now, but going to see a movie at a theater is like one of the first things I'd want to do. In fact, Texas has been opening up slowly, and movie theaters are allowed to open, but none of them have. And I was like, for the most part, like I very, very rarely go out. I have probably followed stay-at-homes as closely as you can, but I was like, you know what? They're only allowed 25% capacity. There'll probably be some distance person to person. Like, I'm going to go see a movie. But I looked and there's no movie theaters open anywhere near me. But like, I feel like it would be a really good opportunity. Like, I don't know about you, but when I watch a movie at home, I can't get quite the same level of escape from reality as when I go to a movie. So getting that just would feel so nice. Like, it is on my list of things I want to do when I could get back to somewhat normal life.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way, man. When I watch stuff at home, I just find myself getting distracted by everything else I've got going on. It's too easy to get up and just go use the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? When I go to a movie, I'll sit there and hold it for an hour and a half, darn near pissing myself just to make it to the end.
But you won't do that at home. Hell no.
But I won't do it at home. No, I mean, there's no point, right? I'm not going to leak on my couch. Get out of here. Look, I can't wait. I can't wait to go out to dinner. I want to go before everything shut down. We have a restaurant here in, where is it? It might be Roseville. It might be Warren. I'm not 100% sure where the boundaries lie, but it's called Mr. Paul's Chop House. I don't know if you've ever been to Mr. Paul's or not. It's a steakhouse though. And the food is fantastic. It's like an old school steakhouse, and like the slabs of meat are just so damn good. I want to go there and I want to have a steak. I want to have somebody else make me a steak. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of cooking on the grill. So going out to eat, going to see a movie, going to the gym, those are my number ones. After that, I would love to be able to go take a sporting event just I don't know, anything. Dude,
I'd love to be
Doesn't
able to
matter.
take a sporting event in on my TV.
Yeah, it's true.
Concerts.
Hey, did you hear about what I think it's baseball or whoever. We talked about it on the Doc and Jock podcast. I guess they want to do, like, if you pay $50 to $100, they'll put a cardboard cutout of you in the stands. This is if they go with no fans in stands. And what'll happen is you'll have a control at home, so you can boo or you can cheer, and they'll pipe that noise in.
No, I haven't heard anything about this. That's hilarious.
How ridiculous is this? It's just a money grab.
But I don't want just a button you can press. I want you to be able to like actually voice. Like, I want a walkie-talkie to the stadium. I want Stroz's cardboard cutout. Trying to what do they call that when you're talking crap at a baseball game?
You want me to chirp Matt Stafford? Is that what you want?
Sure,
so when the NFL season,
but not you in person. I want your cardboard cutout to chirp Matt.
Oh, my cardboard cutout.
Do players still get in fights when basketball comes back? Does Russell Westbrook still get in fights with fans?
I hope so.
Can I give you the most wholesome answer? Like, literally the most wholesome.
Yes, please. Please, because you are the most wholesome guy I know.
I want to hug somebody, Stroz. Maybe a firm handshake.
You're the best.
No, but as far as like things I would go do, a movie is really high up there. I like going to sit down at a restaurant, but I don't know. That doesn't feel as missed for me as movies. I do miss my, like, before all this happened, like, at once a week, I would go out with large groups to the bar. And a lot of times it was like Saturdays during the day. Like, the last time that I went out to a bar before all this happened was actually a Saturday outside. And that's the other thing that's really cool. Like, you do a lot more in Houston than you do in Detroit, is like sitting outside at the bar with, shade covering if it's super hot outside. But and we were playing board games. Like, just drinking and playing board games at an outdoor bar was really cool.
That's
and
awesome.
That was the last time I got to do that in, like, a large group. And it kind of sucks, too, because, I moved to a new city. I start to build friend groups, a couple of them. Then, like, you just go months without seeing these people, and it's, like, it's hard when they're, like, new friend groups. I would also, like, back in like December, we would go play like volleyball or spike ball or stuff like that. Like, I'd love to get in a large group and play sports again. Dr. Kent says he missed movies and his second job.
And what do you guys miss? If you guys miss something, go ahead and feel free to. If you're watching us on Periscope right now, go ahead and chime in. Let us know. Otherwise, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can message at Adam R Stroz or at Brendan Riley _.
I always do that, so I wondered if you'd remember my handle. But specifically in a fantasy world, everything comes back tomorrow. There's absolutely no easing back into this. Everything comes back tomorrow. What's the first thing you do?
You said go and drink at a bar. I don't really realize how much I actually miss that. So I've got, I don't know about you, but generally all of my friends don't usually get together with each other because I've got different groups of guys that I hang out with. And sometimes it's awkward when they all get together because they're from different parts and different paths. But I have a group of hockey buddies. And before I moved to Indiana, we would go out to the bar every Sunday after hockey games. And I miss that interaction with those guys. I miss hanging out at the bar, talking to the waitresses, talking to the rest of the bar staff, having a good time with those guys for hours on end. Dr. Ken says, second job being a camera guy and replay op for minor league baseball. Dr. Ken, who are you a rep for? Or who are you a camera guy for and a replay op for which team? I would totally miss that as well. That would be fantastic. It'd be a fun second job. I was
thinking, like, I haven't done it in years, but I worked promotions as my first job in radio over in Detroit. And, like, one thing that was really cool about that job, there were some struggles. You were outside on really hot days, schedule, but it was so cool because you got to interact with so many people. Mm-hmm. And, like, while I don't know. Right now, more than ever, I feel like I would love to go do something like that. To get a job just interacting with mass volumes of people. Whitecaps is what Dr. Kent said, which was my best guess. But
yeah,
anything else you want to get out there before we move on to this Jordan topic?
I miss this is probably the last thing that I really miss. I miss being able to go out to the grocery store and not be on high alert. So there's like an anxiety. Like, I don't know how things are in Texas, but when I go to the grocery store, there is this extra level of anxiety when I go shopping now. And I would be ecstatic to not have that extra anxiety, that extra, in the back of my mind, what happens if I don't wash my hands right away, or me having to basically wipe down a shopping cart with all the disinfectant. I would love to not have that overarching, looming anxiety in the background.
It's not so much the anxiety for me, but I don't know if how it is for you, but like I've worn masks the last 4 or 5 times I've gone grocery shopping, and I wasn't prepared for like the difficulty breathing aspect. And like I knew a little bit, but it's a little harder than I expected. And like how hot it is. Like I get to the grocery store and I just want to get the hell out of there so fast. Like. Mm-hmm. I would like to be able to. I don't mean to say like I want to spend an hour and a half at the grocery store, but I'd like to not feel like I have to like sprint from one end to the other to just get everything and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. With the mask being on, it makes everything so much more uncomfortable. Breathing becomes difficult, and I don't know are you wearing one of like the N95 masks, or are you wearing just like a regular old mask?
I did have a more it was a painter's mask.
Okay.
I technically I believe it is an N95. I don't know if it's the same one they use for medical. I had 2 of those from my dad, who works in paint supplies. But that was too much, so I ended up going and getting actually have it literally right here. I ended up ordering a washable, reusable mask.
Okay.
It's not quite as extreme. It's still it's still tough, but I don't feel like dying to get out of the grocery store the moment I get in.
See, I've got one of these like weird thin paper ones that my sister gave me, and it just gets too warm. Thing I found too.
So bad.
Yeah, the thing I found too is if it's after a long day of me drinking coffee, usually the blowback from my own breath is gross. So that's kind of gross. I found chewing gum helps. Right. Dr. Ken says that he agrees with me with the whole getting anxious in the 6 feet thing. He says it's damn near impossible to kind of avoid that and elude that.
All right. Again, if you're listening back on the podcast, what's the first thing you do in a fantasy world where COVID-19 tomorrow? But as we move on, Stroz, I assume you've been watching all the last.
Dude, I want you to understand something. I absolutely hate Michael Jordan.
So you're not watching it?
No, I am watching it. And I am cussing Michael Jordan out every chance I get. I just got done, actually last night, I wrapped up episodes 7 and 8. And I was so irritated because I really feel like they just kind of, with a paintbrush, glossed over his dad's death and everything that kind of went on there. It just kind of like, all right, let's see. And what's really messed up is Michael Jordan's the executive producer of this.
No. So I don't think that's messed up. I think it's totally fine. Now, I do think you should recognize that. But I think it's okay for this to be a celebration of Michael Jordan. I don't think it has to be a critical, in-depth look of the positives. And you know what I mean? Like, it's not some journalistic masterpiece. Like, it's something celebrating what Jordan did. I think it's okay. Just understand where you're coming from.
I get it. I don't know. When I said you're right. I should probably take it for what it's worth. I'm looking for more meat and potatoes from it. I don't necessarily want the celebration. I want the backstory. And I'll be honest with you, after episode 1, 2, and 3, I was hooked. Like
we're gonna
I was invested
into The Last Dance next week after the whole thing is done. But specifically what really came out of the last couple weeks for me. And by the way, I'm not watching it appointment viewing on Sundays. I just kind of get back to it later on. I feel like that's a crime, but it's just what it is. I'm watching it when I feel like it. But I am all caught up right now. And in particular, the thing that really stuck with me over the last few episodes, you know, we spent the last 2 episodes hearing about Jordan, the teammate, and most of these guys say he was a jerk, but he was a great teammate because he pushed them to win. And I can respect that to an extent. But the one thing that really got me is when they were saying he would tell guys, don't pass it to certain players late in the game, and if you do, I'll never give you the ball again. And my immediate thought was, like, first of all, like, obviously I've never been anywhere near the NBA, but I don't care what level of sport I'm playing. If you tell me not to involve somebody as the team, as a part of the team, I'm just not going to follow that. Like, Jordan would never give me the ball because if somebody's open, they're getting the damn ball. Like, I don't believe in that as being the best way to play. And I think, like, this is probably incredibly predictable, but in any team event I'm a part of, you know, I play a lot of Fortnite. It's a team game. I play a lot of NBA 2K. It's a team game. And you can ask anybody I play with. You know, Jim Costa plays these games with me. He can confirm it. I am the ultimate support guy. Like, I'm not trying to carry anybody like Jordan was, but I'm trying to make sure that everything's running as smoothly as possible. And I think that making sure every member of the team is involved in playing the game is a part of that, even at the highest level. Like, if you're not on the floor, you're not on the floor. But if you're on the floor, I'm giving you the ball if you're open.
So I'm kind of a win at all costs kind of guy.
See, but no. So I want to say something. I think that's a little bit of a cop-out because that's what Jordan would say too. I'm a win at all costs guy. What I'm saying is I don't necessarily believe that excluding some players from the game is a win at all costs move.
Oh, I think so. I think you have certain players that are complete liabilities. Look, I think you have to be slightly self-aware, right? So yeah, I realize when I play sports, I'm a try-hard guy. I'm not some great athlete. I'm not some guy who's going to be able to go out there and blow your doors off. I'm not the quickest guy. I don't have the best reaction time. You have to be slightly self-aware, right? For different teams that I've played hockey with, right? Generally, I was the captain. And really and truly, the only reason I was the captain was because I was financially responsible. I was able enough to get the money together. I was able enough to design the jerseys, get jerseys made. I was able to be a team manager is all it really was. with that being said, when it comes time for crunch time and you're down by a goal and you're playing in a playoff game, you've got to put out the best players available.
No,
I know that I'm sitting myself because I know what my abilities are.
I mean, I guess I'm not arguing that like everyone should be treated completely equally. I mean, I agree there needs to be a level of self-awareness. Here, I will say this. I've had this conversation with friends. I think there is value to the Jordan who has like an increased self-awareness, and obviously there's value in Jordan as a player, like common sense. He wants to basically say, but that mindset. There's obviously the value in that guy who is going to push you too far. But I think there needs to be a balance too. And like I don't know, I wasn't alive to watch it, but The Last Dance has made it seem as though Scottie Pippen kind of was a balance as far as his leadership style was kind of the put the arm around you, like pick you up when you're down guy. But I mean, I don't know. I guess they made it work. All I'm saying is, I feel like I'd clash. Like I'd be like, nah, man, he's on the court. I'm giving him the ball. I'm honestly. So we almost grabbed this topic because you said you hate Jordan. You figured because you.
I don't think you would like me as a teammate.
Yeah, that's where I really wanted to see where this would go. Why is that?
Like I said, I'm a win at all costs kind of guy, and a lot of times I don't necessarily care if I hurt your feelings. If we're in the middle of a game, if I say something, a lot of times I can just. I've had this happen where I've either come at a guy a little bit too hard in the middle of a game, or after a game. And I don't necessarily have a problem speaking my mind or telling you basically how I feel.
What I would say about that, and this is so funny where we found ourselves because we're basically debating what makes a better team. What I would tell you is that leadership in anything requires the ability to adapt your style to the people you're working with. Some people
Absolutely.
You need to yell at. That's what they need. Some people don't respond to that. And I think it's funny that you say, I'm a win at all costs guy. I consider myself damn near the same thing. I just do it differently because I don't believe everybody benefits from being yelled at. I actually think much like Jordan Stroz, I think in that sense, whether or not we liked playing a sport with each other, I think we would be good teammates because I think a guy like you needs a guy like me to balance. Otherwise, nobody wants to play with a guy like you.
That's probably true. So I want to give you a for instance, right? I want to give you a little bit of a story, and this is what when you sent this topic to me, this is exactly what I thought of. I thought of this one moment in time, and I've matured quite a bit in my age here. So this was when I was a little bit younger. I was probably 23, 24. I ended up getting booted from a game. I don't know. I said something to the referees after I got a penalty or something. I don't necessarily remember, but I got kicked out of a game. And on my way to the locker room, I picked up a bench and I threw a bench. And I was pissed. I was like 23.
Oh my God,
I was pissed. So I think we ended up losing this game. And I definitely did not help the team with getting kicked out of the game. Anyways, I was the captain, but mostly I was the captain because I was financially responsible. I went after the game. I went to go talk to one of the assistant captains, and he started giving me shit about what just took place. And like I already had felt bad enough about it. I didn't necessarily need his lip with everything that just took place. And as we started to kind of talk about it a little bit more, I got onto the rink with him, and we really got into each other's faces about this. And this led to us in a fist fight. And I ended up getting on top of him, and I proceeded to choke him. And the moment he turned purple, I snapped out of it. I just let go, and I was like, oh man.
I would ask the question: how did that help you ever win any game ever?
Well, so not so much that season. But our friendship ended up growing from that. And after all of that, I apologized to him like immediately after.
Now, Stroz, if you ever choke me to the extent that I turn purple, it will not help our friendship.
It won't help us at all.
Jordan and Steve Kerr's fist fight brought them closer together. And maybe that's true. I'm just putting it out there. I will never be with somebody who be closer with somebody who chokes me to the point I'm turning purple. That will at no point in our lives make us closer.
I can't physically abuse you and us become better friends.
That's not my thing.
Oh.
If it works for you, I guess whatever, man, but not my thing.
I think what worked for us was afterwards, me apologizing, me
yeah, I mean, that's
seriously meaning my apology. I even gave him a kiss on the cheek. So it was not my brightest moments, to say the least, but it's. I'd like, again, that's the type of competitor I am, right?
I would be curious to see how we do as teammates. I don't think it's that different doing a show together. I think you say some stupid stuff that shows that's below your intelligence.
Oh, you let me know about it earlier in this podcast. Just hit the rewind button.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Can you hit the rewind button live on Periscope? I don't know that you can.
You can restart the video.
And you can restart the podcast if you're listening after the fact. Again, if you have any thoughts on anything, listening to the podcast, you can tweet at us at Brendan Riley _ at Adam R. Stroz. Kind of wrapping it up here. The coolest thing about doing this live is getting to have some interaction. That's something that I've always wanted to have live. And so I want to thank, what do we have here? We had Dr. Ken, Putty, and Derek, I believe, today. Thanks for hanging out with us live. If you didn't get a chance to today, as of now, it is every Thursday right around noon Eastern time. Timing might change a little bit, just kind of depending on what's going on, but we'll obviously keep you up to date. Stroz, you got anything before we get out of here?
Yeah, also shout out to Aaron and Garrett who joined watching us live.
Jeff.
Courts, yeah, just a ton of people. So really thank you guys for just taking some time out of your day to join us and watch and interact with us. So it was great.
One more thing I want to push. Sundays around 1 o'clock Eastern time, we reflect on the 2011 Lions season. It's not live, but we do release that podcast Sundays around 1 o'clock. It's been more fun than I honestly anticipated. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you can check that out, Detroit Sports Podcast Network, on any podcast platform. If you want to go from the beginning to catch up, I think it's worth it. If you don't, I actually think we've learned, I think each episode has gotten better because as we remember more about the team, the more fun it's been. So I check that out on Sundays, right around 1 o'clock Eastern time if you want to do that. And that's going to do it. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's the practice squad. Should probably end it. I forgot I had it. Got to hit stop broadcast now. Thanks, guys. Well, because I got to do it in 2 separate places.